Good evening, and thank you for joining the January meeting of the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission. My name is Eugene Peterson. I am the chair of the commission. And our commission has been asked or given the responsibility by statute to look into issues of housing discrimination. If you go to our website, you will find a form that you can fill out. And thanks to the good graces of Maria Casasco, we will soon have that in Spanish as well as in the English that it's in now. And she will help us make other adjustments to make our website more friendly to all. We also have a broader charge to work to eliminate discrimination in the county. And we are pleased to be able to work with the county council and the county executive. And we thank them for putting us on the ballot in 2020, which made the commission part of the Anne Arundel County Charter. So we are no longer simply a commission that is serving at the behest of an executive order from the county executive. So we're a permanent function within Anne Arundel County. Having said that, we welcome additional comments from the public on other issues. Feel free to go to our website page, and you will find a phone number, and I believe the phone number is for the Human Resource Officer, Asha Smith, who is on the meeting tonight, who will take your concern and send it through so that we can address it as a commission of the whole. Again, I'd like to move down to our agenda now, so we'll go and have our roll call by Commissioner Daydoni, Mary Daydoni, our secretary.
Thank you. When I call your name, please unmute and say present here, whatever seems appropriate to you. Oluwatosin Agboola.
Present.
Thank you. Lakeisha Hatcher.
She has an excused absence tonight.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Faye Gaskin.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Eugene Peterson.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Khalid Sayed. Commissioner Katie Edwards.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Jakayla Call.
Present.
Commissioner Mary Daydoni is present. Commissioner Mark Apter. Commissioner Joseph Clapsaddle.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Laura Langudi Laparinas has an excused absence. We recognize the presence of Human Relations Officer Asha Smith. We recognize the presence of Student Commissioner Tara Kim, and we recognize the presence of several guests who I hope will be introduced as we go along. Thank you.
I'd like to depart for a minute from our agenda to give a thank you to Commissioner Kim, who was instrumental in getting the legislation passed unanimously by the council that was introduced by the county executive to add a student as a full voting member on the commission and expand our commission to add someone from and the HRO can help me if I get this wrong. The Anne Arundel County Community Development Corporation, I believe, that deals with housing issues in Anne Arundel County. And there was a wonderful article in the Times and Gazette that had County Council member Hare asking the question, would we want to put the responsibility for fining people up to, I think it's $1,000 or $10,000 in the hands of a student? And then when after the great testimony of Commissioner Kim, County Council Member Harris said, "You've changed my mind," and I think that also swung other votes. So thank you, Commissioner Kim, for being a strong advocate for the commission and for the rights of students to be heard.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I couldn't have done it without the support of you guys. It really means a lot to me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now I'd like to go back to the agenda, and Commissioner Daydoni, do we have the minutes? I know we have minutes from December 21. Could you?
Yes, the minutes from December 16th are the ones I
Oh,
have, and I've sent them
I'm sorry, I
to
had the wrong.
Christy Alvarez, who will be sharing them. In the meantime, I noticed the Commissioner Mark Apter has joined us. Commissioner Apter, would you just say here?
Here, do you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay,
Okay.
we have the minutes. They're available here on the Zoom screen. And I would ask the commissioners to take a few minutes, however long it takes you to review the minutes. And then we will ask for a motion to accept the minutes as they are presented by the secretary.
I'd like to point out that the members in attendance, names in bold were present, names not in bold were not recorded as present. Please correct it if you were here and your name isn't in bold, let me know. And thank you very much for scrolling. I think we can go down to the approval of the minutes segment and the section on the update of critical race theory proposed forum. I believe that update continues onto the next page if you want to continue onto the next page. And if we're ready, we can look at the discussion on how to address the discussion on housing in the county. And there we go. And if we're ready, we'll look on the commission updates, which follow. The presentation by Ethan Hunt from the Office of Law was very specific, and rather than recorded, I referred to the video of the meeting, which will be stored in the county archives and is available online. If we could go down to the rest of the report from Human Relations Officer Asha Smith. It's a robust report, so we might have to scroll to get through all of it. Thank you very much. And if we could then scroll on to the remainder, which went very quickly, as you can see. Back to you, Chairman Peterson.
Thank you. I would now entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented by our secretary. Is there a motion?
I have a correction. I had a work meeting that night. I believe I sent you an email, Eugene, said I had a work meeting, would not be able to make it.
Oh.
I can
so-
mark that as an excused absence.
Yeah, we'll mark that as, we'll correct that as an excused absence, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, any other corrections, additions, deletions? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to accept the minutes with the correction suggested by Commissioner Gaskin?
Yes, Mark Apter.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Apter. Is there a second?
Second by Tosin.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Now, and I hope I got this right. Want to introduce, and I hope that he's on the call, the new Anne Arundel Police Department Human Resource Commission contact. And I looked it up on the website and it said sergeant, but I had looked it up at another time and it said major. So Officer Hassan Push, please, if you're on the Zoom call, introduce yourself and give us your correct title.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. My name is Herb Hassenpush. I am a major for the police department, recently promoted. I'm in charge of the Bureau of Patrol. I have taken Katie Goodwin's place. She's been moved over to our community relations bureau. So I'm happy to be in this position. I've been with the county police department since 1995. I started my law enforcement career in Maryland in 1989. So I've done just about a little bit of everything in the police department. I've worked at the Western District, the Eastern District, spent some time in criminal investigations, spent some time in doing things in the back of the house and support services and technical services. Most recently coming out of the technical services division, where we led the implementation of our body worn camera program, among other technology related projects that have been completed and also ongoing. And I'm happy to be in this position. I'm glad to be able to introduce myself to the commission and look forward to being able to help in any way we can.
Thank you, Major, and we welcome you too. And we really appreciate the support from the police department, especially in the data that we get on the hate bias incidents. And we know that you will continue the strong support in those areas and also continue the strong support within our school system with the trainings and the presentations that you make that help to alleviate discrimination in Anne Arundel County. So pleased that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll now move to an update on the critical race theory proposed forum. Recently, in the last week or so, I sent out a request to all those that had expressed interest in either sponsoring or being involved with the forum to designate someone, if they chose to do so, that would be part of a planning process. To date, I had an immediate response from Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and Maisha Gillens will be our contact and will help with the planning process. And I'm waiting for responses from the others that I've contacted. And as you may recall, the Anne Arundel County Public Library System is on board and had offered, should we choose to use it, the Bush Library has a 200 person space that can be utilized to put the forum on. And we also had an affirmative response, but don't have names of individuals to be involved in the planning process from the county chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, and the Youth Advisory Council of Anne Arundel County. the United Black Clergy of Anne Arundel County, and the Interfaith Advisory Council of Anne Arundel County. And also we've contacted Anne Arundel County Community College, and our requests for both co-sponsoring, planning, and perhaps holding the forum at the community college have been lodged. And my plan is in the coming week to, and probably by the end of this week, to contact all those that haven't responded and give them a suspense date to get back with a name, or that they have no interest in the planning. That is where we are at this point in time. If anybody has any questions, I'd entertain them at this time, but I think it's pretty important that we get the planning process going as soon as possible, and hope that in February we can actually say that we've started the planning process and can begin to target a date when the forum would occur. Okay. I don't see any questions, so I'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is commission updates and reports from our human resource officer. There are several items that Asha will address in this report that will be a little elongated, because I had to get the agenda out in time to get it posted, and I could not break out the presentations separately in the agenda. So they will be made like the vaccinations and inoculation report as part of her report. So now I will turn the meeting over to our HRO.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be with you. Happy New Year. I think this is our first meeting since the new year has started, our first collective meeting as a group. It's nice to see everyone. So first up, to be respectful of their time, we have two representatives from the health department. You might recall that a few months ago, this body expressed an interest in getting information about equity efforts to get folks vaccinated, especially in Brooklyn Park. The initial inquiry was about children's vaccines. One of our commissioners mentioned that she had done some work to promote vaccination for the adult vaccines and that she wanted to do something similar for children. But obviously, in the time that's elapsed, we've had an increase in infection rates, following national trends. And so there are some testing things. The great thing about Crystal Cold Iron and her team is that they are focused on equity. And so they are here. Crystal is here with Raymond Medley to talk about what they're doing in terms of equity with respect to the pandemic, vaccinations, testing, and et cetera. And so thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to them.
Thank you, Asha, and thank you for inviting us. My name is Crystal Coldiron. I'm the Director of the Office of Assessment and Planning and oversee the work of the Office of Health Equity and Racial Justice. And I'll let Raymond introduce himself.
My name is Raymond Medley of Anne Arundel County Department of Health, Office of Health Equity and Racial Justice, and my title is Advocacy Coordinator for the county.
So thank you for inviting us today. I'm already hearing so much synergy of your work and your priorities of what you're doing and some of our mission as well. And that is absolutely to address the health disparities in the county. And part of our mission with that is we're in a great position because our office also includes the epidemiologists. So we are looking at that data. One thing that is our beacon through all of our work is to be data-driven and community-led. So with great leaders on our team like Raymond, he has done a great job of really networking with our community, making sure their voices are heard. We've hosted several listening sessions during COVID, making sure that our approach is culturally appropriate, but also tailored to the communities that we serve. So not just lumping everyone together like, oh, they're Black and Brown community. We know that our communities have very distinct needs. And so that's really important for us to make sure that their voices are heard. So I believe Raymond shared with Asha, but we do have a COVID equity vaccination plan. I'll put that in the chat for everyone if you want to take a look. We based this on our data, based on community, and also some other best practices in the space to make sure that we are reaching the communities that we need to during this time and helping those who need it most. So some of our tenets for that, our guiding principles for the health equity plan was to improve access, improve communication, and improve engagement. So that's what we have done to address equity, especially when it comes to vaccine hesitation. So our office actually is very new. We are only about 1.5 years old. And what's exciting about this is that our office, and as you know, with a lot of this type of work, we are not grant funded. This is part of the county budget. It was a priority for the county executive and also for the health officer that this office was actually a part of the reoccurring budget. So we're really excited about that and to continue this work. We have been mostly COVID focused since our existence, but knowing that, we have that ear to the community to address them as best we can. And from what I understand, you all had a lot of questions specifically about youth. So some of the programs that we've launched during COVID, we launched a rent and utility assistance program, which was really amazing. That was $200,000. It went right to the community. We work with our partners to help identify community members in need. And what was unique about our program is that the only qualifying way to receive rent and utility assistance was just all they had to do was have a late bill. So as you know, with a lot of government programs, there's a lot of paperwork, especially if you don't have a government issued ID, or if you live in a multifamily home, all those type of barriers, or even just some middle income families wouldn't have qualified based on income, but they still were having trouble paying their bills. So this was a unique program for us. And we were honored to be recognized by the Maryland County Association as an innovative program during COVID to help support the community. We reached all kinds of different type of community members and had a lot of great feedback and narratives from that. So that was one of our initiatives. And then since then, we have launched the Community Health Ambassador Program. So this is actually community members that are hired by our partners to knock on doors. And our goal is to address vaccine hesitancy, not to persuade, but to educate. Not to persuade, but to educate. So if community members are having some concerns or they have questions, our health ambassadors can help either answer the questions for them directly or get them in touch with someone. They can help them sign up for a vaccine. And also, our health ambassadors had special links when there was limited vaccine to provide the community members access and jump ahead of the line, which was really great to address that equity directly. We knew that people who had access to computers or had flexible schedules were able to snatch up those vaccine appointments really quickly. So to address that, we wanted to make sure that we were getting out in the community and helping them get access to those vaccine appointments ahead of everyone else. So those were some of the ways, and we did see an increase in vaccination rates in the community up to as high as 20% increase, which is huge in these communities, especially when we are reaching saturation rates with vaccines. So that's a quick summary. Raymond, would you like to add some more about the specific outreach that you've been leading the team?
We currently have 8 community partners that are spread out around the county, from South County up to Brooklyn Park. Currently, each of the partners have about 8 to 10 health ambassadors who are in the community, who lead their food distributions, who lead their community events planning. Our last numbers that we had since the start of the second leg of the program, this started back in September, it was over 9,000 homes have been engaged. Over about 4,700 residents have been engaged. And then I think about 300 of our residents have signed up through the door-to-door campaign that our health ambassadors have done in our community. So as Crystal said, the other advantage of our community partners is they get to offer other resources to the needs of the community as well. So as they've been out to be able to engage the community, also be able to offer food services, transportation, and some of the programs also offer their own form of financial assistance in the program. So the program is still going very strong. We're looking forward to the post-winter so that partners can get back out in the community and be a little bit more engaged. But I know questions about Brooklyn Park. We have 2 partners who really work towards the Brooklyn Park area. I know Brooklyn Park is a very sensitive area, but kind of cross over into like Baltimore City area. But they've done really well at really engaging in that community, really walking that community, and really having a positive presence in that community. So I think so far it's been very successful. And then I know that we're doing really good to recruit people from out of the Brooklyn Park community who actually live in that community to really come out and become health ambassadors as well.
That's awesome. Raymond, I would just ask, could you tell the group a little bit more about some of the, first of all, I want to note that Crystal actually just put the COVID data dashboard in the chat that has some stats. What I did not tell you guys at the beginning of this is that there was a compromise. Many of you might know that the state health data was compromised, there was a security breach. And so that, I believe, has affected some of our data and the ability to report on how many people have been vaccinated. I think the zip code data, I was told, was somewhat compromised. But there is a dashboard that Crystal just dropped in the chat for everyone, so you can see what's going on. Raymond, can you just talk a little bit about the faith-based initiatives that you described to me that are going on in the Brooklyn Park area? I think you mentioned that there were some churches and some other things that had been involved. Community
One of
groups.
our partners, Dr. Craig Coates, he has he does an initiative called Whose House? God's House, and he partners with the health department. I believe he partners with Luminous Health and other organizations where he hosts the clinics at his church. So part of that is he goes out and he goes into the community, especially towards that Glen Burnie, Brooklyn Park area, and he really engages the community. And I can't think of all the days he's running, but I know he just had a week where he ran it, I believe, like 4 to 5 days out of the week. And he goes up there, his people, they go to canvass the community, the health ambassadors who are part of our program, they canvass the community, they go door to door, hand out flyers, and they even offer people who have issues with transportation. There's even transportation that's hired, offered for people who would need transportation to his location for the testing. So the testing sites, they do offer the booster shots, and they also have done days when it was just 100% for children. So it's been just all children vaccinations that have ran at those sites. Dr. Craig Coates has been a long-term partner with the Anne Arundel County Department of Health, and he's been just a real light for us in the place of just kind of being in the community and leading that cause of just being able to educate the community. And he also does it through several of our partners do it, but I would say he kind of leads the way as well as doing webinars and the social media push to really make sure that it's not just people who come to his place of business, but also people who will be able to just look at it on social media and repost it and share the information as well.
That's great. One final question that I have for you guys before I ask the group if they have any questions is, if members of this commission, if the commissioners or any of our partners and friends wanted to get involved in helping to address vaccine hesitancy, especially in the Brooklyn Park area or some of our more vulnerable communities, would you be able to share some contact information or resources or ideas for how they can engage and assist? You don't have to have that now, but is that something that maybe you could get to me and I could get to the group?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Anybody else have questions for this dynamic duo? I think Mary's hand is up.
Thank you very much. I have 2 questions. The first is, what can you share with us about the more prevalent reasons given for vaccine hesitancy, and how firm is the resistance to vaccination? The second question I'm going to ask is about what are we doing to capture representative infection rates, case rates. In particular, the school system depends on the case rate data and the percentage infected within a school, the number of percentage of cases within a school to determine whether or not cohorts, classes, or the whole school should go virtual. How are you getting the infection information? Thank you.
Great questions. Thank you, Mary. So for your first question, it definitely depends on the group. So are you asking, just to clarify, about children, the vaccine hesitancy for parents and children, or certain racial groups?
Anything you're comfortable sharing. I realize this is sensitive because it sounds pejorative. I'm going to leave that to your discretion.
Sure. I mean, well, right now we are very much focusing on youth vaccines. We're seeing a large latency gap, if you will, on the 5 to 11-year-old group. So that is the group we're focusing a lot of energy on. And so one of the things that we are doing is we're going to be hosting several rounds of pediatric panels with the health officer and popular pediatric offices in the county, so the parents can ask their questions live. But I will tell you some rumors that we are working with. So some concerns that parents have with the youth vaccine include, why does my child need this if the reaction is not severe? You know, the perception of risk is very low for the childhood vaccine. There's concerns about future fertility for their children. There's rumors that there are aborted fetuses as part of the vaccine, which these are rumors. None of these things are true, but this is what the community, it's real to them. There's rumors about, I think all of us have heard about the chip being in the vaccine. That's pretty prevalent across a lot of the groups. What are some other rumors we've heard? And some of it is access. So it could be literally like vaccine times. So for parents and for working community members, it is so important that the vaccine clinics are offered after work hours, during the weekends, making that available. That's part of it. We know transportation could be an issue, even though we have found with the community health ambassadors and the community survey we've done, transportation is typically not the barrier for the vaccine. Most, if they are interested, if the community member feels comfortable, they have found a way to get transportation, because we can connect them to transportation, and that hasn't been a resource that a lot of our community members have asked for. So we did think that was pretty interesting. So those are some examples. Now that the vaccine is readily available, those are some of the rumors we've been addressing. And then from a data perspective, Mary, we do have some of that data, just all of it isn't publicly available. So the health officer has that data, the leaders of the AACPS have that data. So Anne Arundel County Public Schools, they are using an app, it's called App 19. That's how they're tracking their case rates. It's pretty intense for them, I will say. So a lot of the administrators are helping to do some of that tracking. And then we have access to that data on the school health side. So we do have access to the case rates in the school, classrooms, and tracking outbreaks that way. Our epidemiology nurse team also helps manage the outbreaks at the different schools, if that answers your questions.
It does, and thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Jean, I think your hand up?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Part of the reason we were having this discussion is one of our commissioners, Ms. Farinas, who is not with us tonight, unfortunately, asked what we were doing to really reach out to the underserved population in the Latin community because of the language issues, et cetera, et cetera. And I wondered how you're addressing that, and if, especially in the Annapolis area, you're working with the Center of Help, which basically has a real community focus and would be someone to help address these issues.
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you for asking that. And so I'll let Raymond answer the outreach part, but I will say from a data perspective, our vaccine hesitancy and access is not our typical response from a health department. This, usually we are having, like, it's middle and upper class white community members that are actually the most lacking in our vaccination rates. So this is different for us. Usually we are working more in our marginalized communities, but this is not actually where we need the most energy, but we are working in the Hispanic and Latinx community. So I'll let Raymond answer that part of it.
And so one of our more primary partners is the Center of Health. We work with them through almost, this is their second grant cycle with them, and they also are part of our financial assistance program in the community. So we work with them and support them in all of their efforts. And I know they stretch a little bit beyond Annapolis as well. They go into the Glen Burnie area a little. And we've also are partnering with Heritage Community Church, that's Pastor Jose Torres. So he covers a lot of our Severn area of our community. And then we also work with the Community Action Agency, who has been very effective in making sure they're hiring bilingual coordinators to go out into the community as well. And then in our department, what we're doing, the health department, we're actually right now, we're actually in a recruiting or hiring phase for a Hispanic Latino coordinator who will work alongside me to better engage that community as well across the county.
Who's muted, sorry. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions for you guys, and I want to be respectful again of your time. I know how busy you've been, and we just appreciate you taking the time to come in and speak to us about these issues. That was a lot of information, and we know that you're out there on the ground doing the work. If there's anything that we can do, please keep us in mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I especially want to thank you from the center of my heart, which is with the Center of Help. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's nothing more on that, I'm going to move forward on the agenda. All right, so I would like to just briefly touch on the housing presentations that we discussed last month. We have confirmed that in the month of February, so for our next meeting, we will receive presentations from a joint presentation, I should say, from Arundel Community Development Services, Annapolis Housing Authority, and the Housing Commission of Anne Arundel County. Together, they are sort of collectively addressing our affordable housing as a county. They administer HUD programs, HUD voucher programs. And because there are sort of these three groups that do this, the purpose of this presentation is for them to help us as a body understand how public housing and subsidized housing works in the county, and what their respective jurisdictions are, what each of them do. And I think it will give us a better idea around the landscape, particularly as it pertains to fair housing and our mandate to deal with fair housing. So we're looking forward to that for the month of February. I just want to move something up on the agenda. Typically, I talk about police reports at the end of my report. I'm going to move it up a little bit because we have some exciting news to report. So we recently received the 2021 year-end report on RRE data. The RRE data, those are the bias reports that we receive from the police department monthly. I think most of you know that those reports are any reports that are made to the police that involve race bias, religious bias, or national origin bias. Their allegations, some of them don't rise to the level of crimes, but they're issues and incidents where those things have played a factor, or there are allegations that those things have played a factor. And so this is just going to be a cursory review. The great news is that our Arundel Stat team has put together a dashboard for this. I know we hear a lot about dashboards, and sometimes it's like, well, what is that for, right? What they've done is they've taken, I mean, am I right, Commissioner Clapsaddle? You know what I'm talking about. There's a dashboard for everything, and we're not necessarily always sure what it's good for. But I can tell you that our Arundel Stat team is awesome. And so every dashboard that I've seen is really, really useful and helps you to understand data. This one is good for us because we know what they're looking at. They put this together so that we could draw some conclusions from all of that data from 2021. The dashboard is not currently public facing. It is currently just available to those of us who work in the county executive's office. However, we are considering making it public facing. I want to go through some of the highlights of the data that we were able to glean because of this dashboard. So in 2021, there were 155 incidents countywide. The greatest frequency is in Glen Burnie. So almost a quarter of these incidents occurred in Glen Burnie. Next highest, Pasadena, followed by Annapolis, followed by Brooklyn. By district, most of the incidents occurred in districts 1, 2, 3, and 6. 3/4 of the incidents were the reports were racial in nature. Next was ethnic, then LGBTQIA+, then anti-Semitism, and then religious. The number of incidents peaked in October. They were at their lowest in March. Obviously we consider the role of the pandemic in that, right? So schools were, everybody pretty much was virtual. People weren't interacting face-to-face as much. So there was clearly, a reduced incidence in March. By October, schools were back in session, people were back at work. So that might be one explanation for why the numbers were much higher towards the latter part of the year. The other great thing that our Arundel Stat team did was that they pulled out school data. So school resource officers also take these RRE reports for incidents that occur at schools. Again, they don't necessarily rise to the level of crime. They're not necessarily addressed by the police. Often they're addressed by the school administration. They go through the normal disciplinary process, but it allowed us to get a picture of how many of these incidents were reported at schools. 17% of the incidents were reported at schools. The schools where the incidents occurred sort of track the overall data, right? It was primarily districts 1, 2, and 3, and they were primarily racial incidents. So the question for us, I think, as a commission is what to do with this data. The first thing that I'd like to consider, and I'm really glad that Major Hassan Push is on this call. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk later, but what I'm proposing is that we may take a deeper dive into the data in March. It would be nice for the police department to give us some insight as to the trends that they saw over the course of that year, and maybe some of the conclusions, motivating factors, community-related issues, so that they can shed some insight as to what's going on. And then the question is that once we have that information, what do we want to do? I would propose that, one, we share some of this data. I think that, like I said, that dashboard has made it pretty easy for us to get some numbers and some stats. We could potentially notify elected officials about the numbers and the types of incidents, because I don't know that the folks on our council necessarily know what's happening in their districts with respect to these reports. We could partner with the school system about the numbers and the types of incidents. And candidly, I have been sort of talking with the school system about ways that we might be able to support them. We haven't made any decisions about that, but in my individual capacity, we've talked about that. So as a commission, that might be something to do. We could collaborate with other community organizations and strategic partners for awareness and strategy for addressing some of these issues. So one of the things we might do is share this portion of the meeting with folks in other organizations, just so that they're aware of the numbers. We could notify some local houses of worship in high incident areas to see if they can do anything in terms of messaging to support the ideals of the commission and to promote awareness. And we could notify some of the other relevant commissions, like the Commission on Women, Commission on Disabilities, the Interfaith Commission, to see if maybe they have some ideas. So that is where we are with the police data. Commissioner Clapsaddle.
Don't forget the power of the press. And I'm thinking about the Gazette and also some of the community papers, you know, like and I'm not familiar with all of the county's community papers, but I do, because I live near Severna Park, I get that in the mail. But there are columnists who would be very interested in us sharing the data with them. And then we can be a resource to them if they think it's newsworthy. But I think that, that should be a part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to move on quickly to our county executive office updates. Oh, Mary, did you have something for us?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was quickly looking up representatives from the districts and looking particularly at 1, 2, and 3, but I roughly know where they are. I think we're going to see a synergy between this and our work with CRT. I spend a lot of my time with the Board of Education, at the Board of Education meetings. I testify a lot and I hear other people testifying. So we now have data that indicate in districts 1, 2, and 3, there is elevated incidence of hate bias activity among the school children. And the age distribution of those who aren't still in school might be very interesting too, because they could be near school age. That speaks of the divisiveness. And the parents from those districts are very concerned that anything that they regard as critical race theory, and they will include culturally responsive teaching and expanding the content of American history teaching, adds to the divisiveness. That is, that CRT, as they understand CRT to be, could be a cause that is exacerbating the hate bias incidents. I think we need to anticipate that that is a possible perception. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, if there are no other comments about that, then I'm just going to run through some updates from the county executive's office. One of the first things is that they're publicizing that rapid tests are available at covidtests.gov. I'm sure by now everyone knows that, but you can get four test kits per residential address. You go to covidtests.gov, sign up. The Postal Service will send you your tests within 7 to 12 days. There's going to be a District 2 town hall regarding plans for revitalizing the Glen Burnie Town Center. You know, I share this with you in the hope of increasing participation and diverse participation at that. That's January 26th at 6 p.m. Public comment on the Parole Town Center is being accepted online through January 30th, if anyone has an interest in that. The county executive is conducting a series of budget town halls. You know, they say you can tell a lot about folks by where they spend their money, right? Their priorities. And so the county executive wants to talk to folks about his plans for spending. District 7 will be on January 25th. District 6 will be on January 27th. District 5 on February 1st. And the county executive plans to conduct one budget town hall entirely in Spanish, which is, I believe, a new approach, and it's kind of exciting. Details are forthcoming. Katie.
I had a question in regards to the COVID testing and if there was a plan on behalf of the county to distribute those to folks without addresses that are currently without homes.
That I cannot speak to. And Crystal jumped off, but you know, there was some test distribution done. I believe it was, God, the weeks are like running together. I can't remember now if it was in December or early January, but we had received like 100,000 test kits and they were distributed at police stations, fire stations, all around the county. I'm not sure whether there is a specific push for homeless folks. I know that based on what Raymond Medley told me when in our initial conversation, some of these community ambassadors do work with transient populations. I remember him explicitly stating that. So it would not surprise me if there's a mechanism for getting test kits to them or getting them otherwise tested, if not kits, getting them otherwise tested.
Thank you. If we could perhaps request that information as a follow-up along
Sure.
with the other information, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me just make a quick note to myself. Okay, great. Again, in the interest of getting diverse representation, the Agriculture Commission is accepting applications. They're always seeking diverse candidates, of course. Applicants should be familiar with agricultural and farming issues and either own, manage, or operate a farm in the county. If you know anyone, please spread the word. The Youth Corps is having their snow day. We talked about this. I think it was last month. I don't know, Tara, do you want to just, do you have the deets on that? I
Yeah,
totally put her on the spot.
no, you're totally okay. So, actually, I have the flyer right here. They like handed these out at the last Youth Advisory Council meeting, which was in person. I believe they're actually changing it. I wasn't really given too much information on the update. But since January 31st is closed for Anne Arundel County students as there's a semester break, originally it was supposed to be an in-person event, and there's like a QR code for you to register. I'm pretty sure if you check the, there's this website under Anne Arundel County that the Youth Corps, I believe the interns under Dr. Purcell and Executive Pittman worked on to like get a bunch of youth activities in together. But it's supposed to range from 12:30 to 5 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really know if they updated that. I'm gonna be honest with you, but that's currently what it should be set at on January 31st on a Monday. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it still sounds like an exciting day. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of the in-person activities we've had to change because of Omicron and the virus. So, but check it out, please. We now have a full voting youth member, so please support our youth activities. There's some grant money out there, and I just wanted to make some quick announcements about that. I think it's important. In conjunction with ACDS, the County Executive's Office is now accepting applications for community support grants for nonprofits that provide vital services to county residents. The Arts Council is accepting applications for community arts grants for nonprofit arts organizations. Anne Arundel Women Giving Together has also started their 2022 grant application process. They're accepting proposals that support women and families and prioritize issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion to address the underlying causes of hardship and/or there's an error there, but the organization has to have annual gross receipts of less than $100,000. So there's more money out there. If you know folks with nonprofits, please apply. Finally, on February 7th, 2022, there'll be a county council meeting. One of the highlights is that campaign finance is going to be on the agenda in this political climate. We know that that's a hot button issue. So if you are so inclined, please at least watch and you know, participate to the extent that you can. We've had 9 new police reports since, or RRE reports between the last meeting and this one. 1 was in Annapolis, 2 in Crofton, 1 in Gambrels, 1 in Glen Burnie, 3 in Pasadena, and 1 in Shadyside. And we are still waiting on our complainant from the last meeting to submit his fair housing complaint. He's had an unfortunate series of personal events, but I'm pretty certain that he will be submitting his complaint. And that ends my report. Thank you for being so gracious with your time.
Thank you, Asha. And now I'd like to return to our agenda. And Commissioner Hatcher has an excused absence today, so there will be no report about the her interface with the Human Relations Commission of Annapolis. And before we move on, I'd like to take personal permission to amend the agenda under new business. Prior to the meeting, and I think you will remember her, Abby Elliott, who was part of the group that made the presentation to ask us to support the changes in the school district policies and procedures surrounding LGBTQ plus individuals, students, staff in the county school system. As a result of some of the testimony, and we supported those changes. The school district has updated the policy and issued additional procedures. Ms. Elliott contacted me and was concerned about activities that happened before the changes occurred at Chesapeake High School that involved the Unity Day, where during typically these Unity Days in the high school, people come and dress up in gear that they're proud of, that expresses their opinions and thoughts and beliefs, and they all get together and unify, quote unquote, to support the high school. There was an unfortunate interaction between some folks who supported the, let's call it the Make America Great Again philosophy, Black Lives Matter folks, and folks who supported Pride and the LGBTQ plus community. It was alleged, and it was also documented, that racial slurs and LGBTQ slurs were made. A staff member felt threatened by what was going on, and the school actually then took steps to address the issues on the campus. They didn't just forget about it. They actually did things under the old procedures and policy. After getting this, I took the initiative to ask Commissioner Gaston, since Chesapeake High School is in her district, and Vice Chair Clapsaddle, to get together with HRO Smith and myself and discuss this issue that had arisen. Out of that meeting, the recommendation was that we write a letter to the county public school system. It would go to the superintendent, president of the school board, the director of the Division of Equity and Accelerated Achievement, and I believe there's one other individual that deals with student complaints and discipline.
That would be
Director of
perhaps
Safe and
Mrs.
Orderly
Jackson.
Schools. No, it was
Safe.
Alice Swift.
Yeah, safe and orderly schools. And we would, in our letter, ask what additional things can be done now that they have new policies and procedures to not ensure that this would never happen again, but to ensure that there were forward plans in place to address continuing issues. Because one of the things that I believe Commissioner Gaskin pointed out is that, like our society, this is a very divided community. So we also discussed that in addition to the letter we would write, we would also consider after getting a response from the school district, what additional steps we might take with members of the community to promote healing. I bring this up because I wanted to get the commission updated on what had happened, and also to get general concurrence that we would send the letter. So with that, I would ask for a motion that we go ahead and construct the letter, and also then look afterwards at other things we might do. Is there a motion to that effect?
I move that this commission construct a letter to go to the aforementioned persons within the Board of Education and the administration of AACPS to address how to address the kinds of issues we have seen related to hate, bias, intimidation behavior at Chesapeake High School.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
A second.
Okay. That was Commissioner Edwards. Thank you for the second. Discussion, any further discussion?
Tara has her hand up.
Okay, Tara?
Hi. So I currently attend Chesapeake High School as a senior. I believe this might have been a meeting that I had missed for a youth advisory council meeting, since there was an overlap and I had an excused absence. Is this something I can get more information on, as I'm currently aware of the kind of the hate bias incidents that have been going on in Chesapeake High School. They're very prevalent, especially this year with the LGBTQ plus community, the spark of our like USA Day incidents that kind of spread it out. I was also on the SGA team that planned the Spirit Week, and there's definitely a lot of a mishap there, and I'm not aware of the student's name that you mentioned, but I work on a handful of panels for Chesapeake High School when it comes to like student voice and, again, equity issues. Is this something that you can like forward me an email or even get a contact with, so I can talk to the student and even personally apply myself into this, because I'm a student at that school.
Right. Ms. Elliott is not a student at the school. She was part of the group that helped pull together representatives in the community to advocate for the changes in policy and procedure with the school district. But I think you raise a good point, Commissioner Kim. So one of the things that we can do now that we've talked about this issue is we will, and I'll ask our human resource officer, Ms. Smith, to send the letter out that we got so that all the commissioners can read the letter. I think that's fine.
Thank you. I'm sorry
And
about that.
no, that's fine. It's good. It's a good point. Commissioner Daydoni?
With your permission, Chairman Peterson and Human Relations Officer Smith, I would gladly provide you with newspaper articles and other written and video material from that day. It was particularly the Flag Day.
Okay, that would be helpful for the commission. We can also send that out too, so people can have a full understanding of what's going on. And let me stress that we're not picking on the county council district or Chesapeake High School. This is a issue that goes on in many of our schools. And as the HRO pointed out, as Asha pointed out, it tends to, the data tells us it tends to reflect in county council districts 1, 2, 3. So that is a given that we understand and know. It's just that the high schools become a lightning rod because of the incidents that have happened. One of the things I think that might come out of our discussion with the school district is I'm for unity. I believe in unity days, but I think that things start to go sideways when everybody shows up on Unity Day, not dressed in high school garb, but in other garb. I think you can have separate events to support those individual groups and their feelings, but if you bring all that together in a contentious and divided community, things are going to happen. But that's another discussion that we can have with the school district after we send the letter. So is there a second to the?
Katie seconded it.
Pardon?
I
Oh,
think
that's right, Katie second. And Commissioner Clapsaddle, do you have?
Yes, I just wanted to say that the whole purpose of this is for us not to take a position necessarily, but for us to make the community and the school district aware that we are watching them and that we are monitoring what is going on. And our job will be to be cooperative with them to try to make corrections. This is not meant to be a political lightning rod at all. Thank you.
Point well taken, and the letter will reflect those sentiments. Okay, having the motion on the table, I'd ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead and construct the letter. And I will also commit to, once we have drafted the letter, and I will do that with the HRO and in concert with the commission, then we'll send the letter out so people can review it and add any additional comments, suggestions that they have. And once that is done, then we will send a letter to the appropriate people. So thank you for your indulgence on this matter. I'd like to move on to, since we've gone through new business on the agenda, I'd like at this point in time to I'll be with you in a minute. I'd like at this point in time to ask if there are any comments for the good and welfare of the commission. Okay, hearing none. I'd like to say that our next monthly virtual meeting will be Thursday, February the 17th at 6 p.m. And at this point in time, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Gaskin. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded by Commissioner Edwards. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. It's a non-debatable motion. And again, I want to thank all the commissioners and others that will view this Zoom recording for joining us, and see you in February. Thank you all for your time and patience.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have
Chairman
a good night.
Peterson and everyone.
All right.
All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye.